The first thing I noticed wasn't the guards or the weapons pointed at my spine. It was her wrist, a faint line of ink, barely visible against her smooth, luminous skin. At first, I thought it was some kind of royal marking, status, bloodline, something I didn't understand. But then my eyes adjusted and my breath caught. It was a name. My name. Noah Carter. I didn't have time to process it. The guards forced me forward, energy restraints biting into my wrists as the massive doors of the tribunal chamber sealed behind us with a hollow, final sound. The air inside was cold, sterile, like the place itself had been designed to erase people before the sentence was even spoken. I was pushed to my knees. Above me, rows of officials watched in silence, their faces unreadable. Minister Havoc stood closest, his expression calm, almost satisfied. "Human Noah Carter," he announced, his voice echoing across the chamber. "You are charged with possession of classified Dominion intelligence and unauthorized access to restricted zones." I didn't. Silence. The word struck harder than the restraints. "The council has reached a unanimous decision," he continued. "Your existence will be erased. All records purged. All memory of you removed." Erased. Not executed. Not imprisoned. Deleted. The executioner stepped forward. A blade of condensed energy hummed to life, casting a pale glow across the floor. I stared at it, strangely detached. 3 years out here, trying to play diplomat, and this is how it ended. No body, no grave, just nothing. The blade lifted. And then, "Stop." Her voice cut through everything. The executioner froze instantly. I looked up. High Empress Veilora was already descending from her elevated throne, her presence pulling the entire room into silence. Every step she took felt deliberate, controlled, dangerous. She stopped in front of me. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Up close, her eyes weren't just bright. They were alive with something sharp and unreadable. And there, on her wrist again, I saw it. My name. Clearer now. Undeniable. "This one," she said quietly, her gaze still locked on mine, "belongs to me." The room erupted into whispers. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because I had no idea which was worse. Being erased. Or being claimed by her. The silence after her words didn't last long. It shattered. "Your radiance." Minister Havoc stepped forward, his composure cracking just enough to notice. "The human has already been judged. The council's decision is final." Veilora didn't even look at him. "Final," she repeated softly, as if testing the word for flaws. Strange. I do not recall surrendering my authority to the council. A ripple moved through the chamber. Unease, restrained panic. I felt it even from my knees. Havoc adjusted his stance. "With respect, the laws of the Dominion were written to serve the throne." She cut in, her voice suddenly sharper. "Not to restrain it." That got his attention. That got everyone's attention. I swallowed, trying to keep up. A few minutes ago, I was about to be erased from existence. Now I was what? A political problem? A weapon? Or something worse? Havoc's eyes flicked toward me, then back to her. This human was found with restricted territorial documents in his quarters. Documents that detail fleet movements, border weaknesses. Documents you authored. The words landed like a shockwave. I looked up. So did everyone else. For the first time since I'd seen him, Havoc hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. "You are making a serious accusation, Your Radiance." "No," she said calmly. "I am stating a fact." She turned slightly, enough for the entire chamber to see her face, her expression no longer neutral. There was something else there now. Something controlled, but dangerous. "This human," she continued, "was not in possession of those files by accident. They were placed in his quarters." The whispers grew louder. Havoc's voice hardened. "Convenient. A human claims innocence, and suddenly the blame shifts to a member of the council?" "I said nothing about shifting blame," she replied. "You recognized yourself in the accusation. That is your burden to carry." A few nobles actually stepped back. I felt my pulse in my throat. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was a power struggle, and I was right in the center of it. Havoc straightened, forcing control back into his posture. "Even if your interpretation were true, it does not erase the fact that the human accessed restricted data. That alone is grounds for. He saved my life. That stopped everything. Not slowed it. Stopped it." Every sound in the chamber died. I stared at her. "What?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. She finally looked at me again, and for a second, just a second, something shifted in her expression. Not authority, not control, recognition. He pulled me from the wreckage of my transport during the outer sector incident, she said, her voice steady, but quieter now. Beyond the shield walls, when my escort abandoned their posts. My mind raced. The crash, the fire, the way I'd found her buried under twisted metal, bleeding out in silence while alarms screamed overhead. I hadn't known who she was, just that she was dying. I carried you. I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. Yes, she said. You did. HFY's jaw tightened. A single act does not absolve him of. It does when that act preserved the throne itself. Now she stepped closer to him. Not fast, not dramatic, but the entire room seemed to shift with the movement. You would erase the only individual in this chamber who chose to act without calculation, she said, while elevating those who abandoned their Empress to save themselves. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the guards looked uncertain now. HFY tried once more, but his voice lacked the same confidence. Emotion clouds judgment, your radiance. The human species is known for. Careful, she said. Just one word. But it carried enough weight to crush whatever he had been about to say. I exhaled slowly, realizing I'd been holding my breath this entire time. I should have felt relief. I didn't, because I could see it now, the way the others looked at me. Not as a man, not even as a prisoner, but as something that had just disrupted a balance that had existed long before I arrived. And that made me dangerous. Veilora turned back toward me. For a moment, the tension of the room seemed to fade, replaced by something quieter, more focused. You will not be erased, she said. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a promise. It was a decision. My restraints hummed faintly as I shifted. Then what happens to me? A pause, just long enough to make the answer matter. You are bound to my household, she said. Your existence falls under my authority. Your actions, my responsibility. That didn't sound like freedom. That sounded like ownership. The chamber reacted instantly. Your radiance, that is unprecedented. It is unnecessary. It is dangerous. She didn't raise her voice, but the moment she lifted her hand, the noise died again. Remove his restraints, she ordered. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The energy bindings dissolved around my wrists, leaving behind a faint, stinging warmth. I flexed my fingers slowly, almost forgetting what it felt like not to be restrained. Escort him to the upper sectors, she continued. Prepare quarters appropriate for a member of my household. A member, not a prisoner. Not quite. HFY's voice came one last time, quieter now, but colder. This will not end here. Veilora didn't even turn to face him. I am counting on it. 2 guards approached me, but their grip was different now. Not as rough, not as certain. As they pulled me to my feet, I couldn't help it. I looked at her again, and there it was. That mark, clearer than before. My name, etched into her skin like it had always been there. Noah Carter. A chill ran through me, because whatever this was, it hadn't started in that courtroom, and I had the feeling it wasn't going to end there either. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Let's move on. The upper sectors of the palace didn't feel like freedom. They felt like a quieter kind of captivity. The doors sealed behind me with a soft, seamless hiss. No guards posted inside. No visible restraints. No chains. Just silence. Expensive silence. The kind that made every step you took feel like it was being recorded somewhere you couldn't see. My new quarters were larger than my entire apartment back on Earth. Floor-to-ceiling crystal panels filtered in soft light from the twin suns, shifting colors as if the room itself was breathing. Sculptures lined the walls, translucent, humming faintly, like they were alive in some way I couldn't understand. A table was already set. Food I didn't recognize. Clothes laid out with precision. Everything about it said one thing clearly. You are not a guest. You are being watched. I moved slowly through the room, testing it like it might bite me. Every surface felt too clean, too perfect. No dust, no imperfections, not even a shadow where one shouldn't be. A cage didn't need bars if it had nowhere to escape to. I exhaled and leaned my hands against the edge of the table, trying to ground myself. A few hours ago, I was about to be erased. Now I was what? Property? Protection? Or leverage? My reflection stared back at me in one of the crystal panels. Tired, pale, still carrying the weight of a death sentence that hadn't quite released its grip yet. "You're still alive," I muttered. Didn't feel like it. A faint shift in the air made me straighten. I turned. Nothing. But the feeling stayed. Eyes. Somewhere. Watching. I forced myself to relax and sat down, picking at the unfamiliar food more out of habit than hunger. It tasted fine, maybe even good, but I couldn't shake the thought that everything in this place had a purpose beyond comfort. Even this. Especially this. 3 days passed like that. Measured. Controlled. Silent. Servants came and went without speaking. The same 2 guards stood outside the chamber every time I checked. I wasn't locked in, but I wasn't invited out either. A gilded prison. And the longer I stayed, the more the whispers started to reach me. Not directly. Never directly. But enough. The human. She intervened herself. Dangerous precedent. There must be a reason. There was always a reason. I just didn't know what it was yet. But one thing wouldn't leave my mind. Her wrist. That mark. I'd seen it twice now. Once before the tribunal, once during it. Not an illusion. Not a trick of light. My name. I rubbed the back of my neck, pacing the length of the room. Why would she? I stopped myself. No answer came. Only that same quiet hum of the palace around me. On the 3rd day, everything changed. The door opened. No warning. No announcement. Just a soft shift, and then, "Come." Her voice. I froze for half a second before turning. High Empress Veilora stood in the doorway, but not like before. No throne. No ceremonial armor. No overwhelming display of power. She looked almost ordinary. A long, dark gown replaced the structured layers she'd worn in the tribunal. Her hair fell freely over her shoulders, catching the light in soft silver blue tones. Even her posture had changed, less rigid, less distant. But her eyes, those hadn't changed at all. Sharp, observing, dangerous. "You may follow," she added, already turning away. Not a command shouted across the chamber. A quiet expectation. I hesitated for a fraction of a second, then moved. The guards outside stepped aside instantly, not even glancing at me as I passed. The corridor beyond stretched wide and open, lined with high arching structures that seemed to bend light in unnatural ways. We walked in silence, just the sound of footsteps echoing softly against polished floors. I tried not to stare. Failed. "You're wondering why you're still alive?" she said without looking at me. "Yeah," I admitted. "That's one way to put it." A brief pause. "And you're wondering about the mark." That made me stop. She didn't. I caught up quickly, my pulse picking up. So I didn't imagine it. No, just that. No explanation. No denial. My jaw tightened slightly. "Then maybe you want to explain why my name is on your wrist." She slowed. Just enough. Then continued walking. "You ask questions as if you are in a position to demand answers." I ask questions because I almost got erased from existence. I shot back. "Feels like I've earned at least one." That did it. She stopped completely. I nearly walked into her. Slowly, she turned. For a moment, the air between us felt heavier. Not hostile. Not exactly. But charged. "You are alive," she said quietly. "That is already more than what was intended for you." I noticed. Her gaze held mine. Unblinking. Measuring. "And yet," she added, "you do not act grateful." I let out a short breath. "I don't even know what I am to you." That lingered. Something shifted again, subtle, almost imperceptible. "Neither do I," she said. That wasn't the answer I expected. We stood there for a moment longer before she turned again. "Come," she repeated. This time, I followed without hesitation. We moved through a different section of the palace now, less formal, less structured. The light softened. The architecture opened, giving way to something that felt quieter, private. The air changed. Warmer. Alive. We stepped into a garden suspended high above the city. Bioluminescent plants pulsed gently in shades of violet and blue, casting shifting patterns across the ground. The skyline stretched endlessly beyond the transparent barriers, distant towers glowing under the fading light of the suns. I slowed without meaning to. "Didn't expect this," I muttered. "Most don't," she said. She walked further in, her steps quieter now, almost blending with the rhythm of the place. "This is where I come when the palace becomes intolerable." I watched her carefully. No guards. No witnesses. Just us. And for the first time since I'd met her, she didn't look like an empress. She looked like someone carrying something too heavy to put down. I stepped closer. "You brought me here for a reason." She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached out, brushing her fingers lightly against one of the glowing plants. The light shifted, responding to her touch. Then, "You are not what I expected." I blinked. "That makes two of us." A faint exhale, almost a quiet laugh. Almost. Silence settled again. And then, slowly, she turned her wrist. Just slightly. Enough for me to see it clearly this time. The mark. My name. Noah Carter. Not ink. Not exactly. Something deeper. Something permanent. My chest tightened. "You saw it before the tribunal," she said. "Yeah. And yet you said nothing." I figured I had bigger problems at the time. That almost earned a reaction. Almost. Her eyes met mine again. This time, there was something else behind them. Not authority. Not calculation. Something far more dangerous. "You should have asked sooner," she said. I swallowed. "Why?" A pause. Longer this time. Then, "Because," she said quietly, "it means your fate was decided long before you entered that chamber." A cold realization settled in. Because suddenly, this didn't feel like a rescue anymore. It felt like something that had been set in motion, and I had just finally caught up to it. I didn't answer right away, because there was only one thought running through my head. Asterisk how long? Asterisk. How long ago? I asked finally, my voice quieter than I expected. Veilora didn't look at me. Her fingers traced slowly along the edge of a glowing leaf, the light pulsing faintly beneath her touch. "Before the tribunal," she said. "Before the accusation. Before the evidence was placed in your quarters." My chest tightened. "So you knew?" "Yes." The word landed heavier than anything she'd said so far. "You knew I was being set up?" I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. "You knew they were going to erase me, and you waited." That made her pause. Not long, but long enough. "I did not wait," she said. "I prepared." I let out a breath, running a hand through my hair. Prepared for what? Because from where I'm standing, it looked a lot like I was seconds away from disappearing. Her gaze shifted to me then, direct, unfiltered. "And yet," she said, "you did not." That wasn't an answer, but it was the only one she was going to give. Silence stretched between us again, filled only by the soft, rhythmic glow of the garden. I took a step closer. "You said my fate was decided before I walked into that chamber," I said. "That doesn't just happen. Not at this level." "No," she agreed. "So why me?" That question lingered longer than the others. She turned away from me, moving deeper into the garden, her posture shifting slightly, less controlled now, less guarded. "Because you made a decision," she said. I frowned. "What decision?" She stopped. Slowly, she turned back. The day of the crash. The memory hit instantly. Flames. Metal screaming. The heat so intense it burned the air out of my lungs. "I didn't know who you were," I said. "I am aware. I thought you were just someone who needed help." Her eyes didn't leave mine. "And that is precisely why." I blinked. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," she said quietly. "You simply do not see it yet." I exhaled sharply. "Then explain it to me." For a moment, I thought she wouldn't. Then, "I was not supposed to survive that crash." The words came flat. "Controlled. Too controlled. My transport was sabotaged," she continued. "A failure in multiple systems, timed precisely as we crossed beyond the shield perimeter. My escort fled within seconds." I clenched my jaw. "Of course they did. They calculated survival odds," she said, "and chose accordingly. And I didn't." "No," she said. "You did not." Her voice softened, just slightly. "You entered a burning wreckage without knowing who I was. Without knowing if it was a trap. Without knowing if you would survive." I shrugged faintly. Didn't really think about it. "That is the point." She stepped closer now. Not threatening. Not distant. Something else. "In my entire life," she said, "every action around me has been calculated. Every alliance, every loyalty, every betrayal measured against gain." Her expression shifted. Barely, but I saw it. "And then there was you." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said the only thing that made sense. "I just did what anyone would do." "No." The word cut through me. "Not anyone," she said. "No one." I held her gaze. "You're wrong." She stepped even closer. Close enough that I could see the faint, intricate patterns beneath her skin, like something alive, something shifting just beneath the surface. "Am I?" she asked. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure anymore. The silence stretched. Then, "I was not raised to be what you see," she said suddenly. That caught me off guard. What do you mean? She looked away again, but this time it wasn't avoidance. It was memory. I was engineered, she said. Conditioned. Refined from birth for one purpose. To rule, I said. Yes. Her voice was steady, but there was something underneath it now. Something colder. I was not given a childhood. I was given instruction. Strategy. Survival. She moved slowly through the garden, her fingers brushing against the glowing plants as she spoke. I had 7 siblings, she continued. That made me pause. Had. They did not survive. The words were quiet. Too quiet. A knot formed in my chest. What happened to them? She stopped, then turned to face me fully. We competed. The way she said it made my stomach drop. No, I shook my head slightly. You mean? Yes. The air felt heavier. When an heir is not designated, she said, the outcome is determined by elimination. I stared at her. You're saying you had to kill them. I am saying, she replied calmly, that I am the only one who remains. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The garden continued its slow, pulsing glow, indifferent to the weight of what had just been said. How old were you? I asked quietly. Her gaze didn't waver. 14, she said. That hit harder than anything else. I looked away for a second, trying to process it. 14. A kid, forced into something like that. I remember the last one, she added, her voice distant now. He asked for mercy. I swallowed. And you didn't give it. No, not hesitation, not regret, just truth. Because mercy, she said, was something neither of us could afford. Silence fell again, heavier this time, more real. I looked back at her slowly, at the woman standing in front of me, at the Empress who could command an entire empire with a word, at the person who had just told me she killed her own family to survive. You think you're a monster, I said. She didn't react. Don't you? A pause. Then, I know what I am. I stepped closer, slowly, carefully. And what's that? Her eyes met mine. Cold, sharp, honest. A survivor, she said. Something tightened in my chest. Because I recognized that tone, that certainty. I'd heard it before, in people who had done things they couldn't undo. And you think that makes you something less? I said. I think, she replied, that it makes me exactly what this empire requires. That's not what I asked. That stopped her, just for a second. And in that second, I saw it. The crack. Small, but real. You're not just what they made you, I said quietly. Her expression shifted. Barely, but enough. You don't know that, she said. I do. She looked at me like she was trying to figure out if I was serious. Based on what? She asked. I took a breath, then answered honestly. Based on the fact that you're standing here talking to me about it. That landed. I saw it. Something in her posture changed. Not visibly, but internally. You could have ignored me, I continued. Left me in that cell. Let them erase me. I could have, but you didn't. A long pause. Then, no, she said quietly. I did not. I nodded slightly, which means you had a choice. Her eyes narrowed just a fraction. And you chose something different. Silence. The kind that feels like it's balancing on something. And then, I chose something selfish, she said. That caught me off guard. What? She looked down at her wrist. At the mark. At my name. You will understand that later, she added. I frowned. You keep saying things like that. Because, she said softly, you are not yet ready to understand them. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. Try me. She looked back up. And this time, there was something else in her eyes. Something that hadn't been there before. Not power. Not control. Something quieter. More dangerous. Very well, she said. She stepped closer again. Close enough that I could feel the coolness of her presence, the faint energy that seemed to hum around her. When I was in that wreckage, she said, bleeding, barely conscious. I remember looking up. My chest tightened. And I saw you. I held her gaze. You didn't look at me like I was an empress, she continued. You didn't hesitate. You didn't calculate. I told you, I said. I didn't know who you were. I know. Her voice dropped slightly. And that is why I remembered you. The air between us felt different now. Charged. Alive. And when I saw you again, she added, in that chamber. Her fingers tightened slightly at her side. For the first time in 30 years, she said quietly, someone stood in front of me and saw a person, not a throne. That hit harder than I expected. I didn't have a response ready. Didn't have a defense. Just, that sounds lonely, I said. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Her reaction was immediate. Subtle, but immediate. She turned away again. Sharp. Controlled. I am not lonely. I didn't believe that for a second. Yeah, I said quietly. You are. Silence. Longer this time. Heavier. And then, be careful, Noah Carter, she said, her voice steady again. You are speaking to the most powerful being in 6-star systems. I stepped closer anyway. Then maybe someone should. That did it. She turned back sharply. And for a moment, something flared. Not anger. Not exactly. Something else. Raw. Unfiltered. And then, just as quickly, gone. The mask returned. Perfect. Controlled. Untouchable. But I'd seen it now. And she knew it. The council will not let this stand, she said, changing the subject abruptly. I blinked. Let what stand? You. That was blunt. Havoc will move against you again, she continued. More carefully this time. More decisively. Great, I muttered. Looking forward to that. Her gaze softened just slightly. I will not allow it. I met her eyes. You can't control everything. No, she said. A pause. Then, but I can control what is mine. That word again. Mine. My jaw tightened slightly. I'm not. You are alive because I claimed you, she said calmly. Do not confuse that with freedom. That stung more than I expected. I looked away for a second, then back at her. Then why does it feel like you're trying to convince yourself more than me? That hit. I saw it. That crack again. Wider this time. She didn't respond immediately. Didn't deny it. Didn't confirm it. Just stood there, looking at me like she didn't have an answer ready. And for someone like her, that meant everything. The garden pulsed around us. Soft. Steady. Alive. And for the first time since all of this began, I realized something. This wasn't just about power, or politics, or survival. This was something else. Something neither of us fully understood yet. And whatever it was, it had already changed the course of everything. The door didn't open the way it usually did. There was no soft hiss. No smooth transition. It snapped. A harsh crack of overridden systems tore through the silence, dragging me out of sleep before my brain could even catch up. I moved on instinct. Years of training I barely remembered using kicked in before thought had a chance. I rolled off the bed just as a burst of white-hot energy tore through the space where my head had been a second earlier. The pillow vaporized. Target is awake, a distorted voice said. 3 figures stepped into the room, their outlines flickering under light-bending cloaks. Not guards. Not palace security. Too precise. Too fast. Assassins. I pushed myself up, heart hammering, scanning for anything I could use. No weapons. No cover. Just polished surfaces and things designed for beauty, not survival. Another shot came. I ducked behind a crystalline structure as it shattered, shards exploding across the room in a storm of razor edges. Don't kill him instantly, the voice continued. Orders were specific. That was worse. Way worse. I grabbed one of the broken shards, ignoring the way it sliced into my palm. If they wanted me alive, that gave me maybe a few seconds. Let's see how valuable you really are, one of them muttered. Something hit me. Not heat. Not impact. Something colder. It slammed into my back like a spike of ice and lightning combined. My entire body locked. I hit the ground hard, muscles seizing, vision fracturing into static. A neural disruptor. I tried to move. Nothing. Tried to speak. Nothing. Panic hit harder than the pain. Got him, one of them said, stepping closer. Pathetic. A boot pressed into my back, pinning me down completely. I could hear the charge building. High frequency. Close. Should have stayed erased, the voice whispered. Then, everything changed. The air shifted. No sound. No warning. Just pressure. The weight of something entering the room that didn't belong to them. The boot vanished. The charge cut off mid-cycle. A wet, choking sound replaced it. My vision struggled to focus, fragments of light pulling themselves back together. And then, I saw her. Veilora stood in the doorway, but not the version of her I had seen before. This wasn't the Empress in control. This was something else. Her entire presence burned. Not physically, but it felt like standing too close to something unstable, something ready to collapse into violence at any second. The faint patterns beneath her skin glowed brighter now, pulsing with a violent intensity. Her eyes, they weren't just bright anymore. They were blinding. The 3 attackers didn't even get a chance to react. One of them collapsed where he stood, his body folding in on itself like something had been torn out of him. The second barely raised his weapon before he was thrown across the room. No visible force, no movement from her. Just gone. The third tried to run. He didn't make it past the door. Silence. Complete. Absolute. The kind that follows something final. I tried to breathe. Tried to move. Nothing responded. The neural disruptor still had me locked down. Then, she was beside me. The shift from destruction to precision was immediate. Marcus! She stopped herself, her voice tightening. Noah. Her hands were on me now. Cool. Steady. Grounding. Look at me, she said. I tried. My vision blurred, snapped, struggled to focus. Stay with me, she continued, her voice lower now, controlled. But I could hear it. The edge. The crack beneath it. Neural disruptor, I forced out. I know. Her hand moved to the side of my face, steadying me. You need to stay conscious. Can you do that? I managed something like a nod. Pain surged again, sharper this time, like my nerves were trying to reconnect all at once and failing. Good, she whispered. Stay with me. Voices echoed somewhere behind her. Guards, finally arriving. Too late. Secure the wing, she snapped without turning. No one leaves this sector. I want every access point locked. Yes, your radiance. My safety is irrelevant, she cut in coldly. Find who authorized this. Her grip tightened slightly. This man is under my protection. A pause. Then, quieter. This man is mine. That word again. Mine. But this time, it sounded different. Not possession. Not control. Something else. Something sharper. More dangerous. My vision flickered again. I focused on her. On her face. On the way the glow beneath her skin was slowly dimming, stabilizing. And then, I saw it. Her wrist. Closer than ever before. Clear. Undeniable. My name. Not ink. Not surface. Carved. Burned into her skin like something that couldn't be removed. Like something that had been chosen. Why, I tried to say. The word barely came out. Her eyes met mine. For a second, everything else faded. The guards. The room. The bodies. Just her. You're not dying, she said. That wasn't what I asked. But it was the only answer she gave. My vision collapsed inward again, the edges going dark. Her voice followed me down. Stay with me, Noah. And for some reason, even through the pain, I did. I woke up to silence. Not the artificial kind I'd gotten used to in the upper sectors, where everything felt controlled and monitored. This was different. Softer. Warmer. Real. For a second, I didn't move. Just lay there, staring at a ceiling that wasn't made of crystal or light-filtering panels, but something simpler. Solid. Grounding. My body felt like it had been torn apart and stitched back together wrong. Don't try to sit up. Her voice. Close. Too close. I turned my head slowly. Veolora sat beside the bed. No guards. No distance. No throne between us. Just her. Her posture was different now. Less composed. Less perfect. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes. The kind you only got from exhaustion you couldn't hide. Her hair wasn't arranged with precision anymore. It fell naturally around her shoulders. She hadn't left. How long? I asked, my voice rough. 8 hours, she said. You were not expected to recover this quickly. I managed a weak breath that might have been a laugh. Humans are inconvenient like that. Her expression didn't change. Do not make light of this. That shut me up. I shifted slightly, ignoring the way pain flared through my nerves. They almost had me. Yes. No hesitation. No denial. They will try again, she added. I nodded faintly. Figured. Silence settled between us for a moment. Then, you should not have been alone, she said. I blinked. Pretty sure I didn't choose that. I did. That caught me off guard. What? I allowed you to remain in the upper sectors without additional protection, she continued. I underestimated the speed at which Havek would act. There it was. The first crack of something close to blame. Not outward. Inward. I studied her for a moment. You're not used to being wrong, are you? Her eyes lifted to mine. Sharp. But you are not dead. Close enough. That is not the same. No, it wasn't. But it felt like it. I exhaled slowly, letting my head fall back against the surface beneath me. So what now? That question lingered. Longer than it should have. Now, she said, he moves openly. I frowned. Meaning, Havek will no longer operate in secrecy. He has already crossed the line. There is no retreat from that. Good, I muttered. Makes it easier to see him coming. No, she said quietly. It makes him more dangerous. I turned my head again, looking at her. And you? A pause. Then, I will answer. That didn't sound like a plan. That sounded like something else. How? I asked. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she stood, moved, slow, deliberate steps across the room. And then, the council will be convened at dawn, she said. He will call for a formal challenge. My chest tightened slightly. A duel. Yes. I let out a breath. To the death. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. Do you win? I asked. Her back was still turned to me. Perhaps. That wasn't reassuring. Perhaps. I repeated. She turned then. And for the first time, I saw uncertainty. Small. Controlled. But real. Havoc has prepared for this for decades, she said. He would not act without believing he could succeed. Do you? That question landed harder than I expected. Her gaze held mine. And for a moment, she didn't answer, which was answer enough. I pushed myself up despite the pain. Then you don't get to doubt it. Her expression shifted. Slightly. You are in no condition to. I don't care. I cut in. You think he's stronger? Faster? More prepared? Fine. Doesn't matter. It does. No, it doesn't, I said, forcing myself to sit upright fully now, even as my muscles screamed in protest. Because I've seen what happens when you stop believing you can win. Her eyes narrowed slightly. And what happens? You lose before the fight even starts. Silence. Heavy. Charged. You don't get to hesitate, I continued. Not now. Not after everything. She stepped closer. Slowly. Everything, she repeated. I held her gaze. You saved me. You stood in front of that entire council and claimed me like it didn't matter what it cost you. You came for me when they tried to kill me. You didn't hesitate then. That hit. I saw it. That flicker again. You don't get to hesitate now. The room felt smaller. Tighter. Just the two of us. And you believe this is enough? She asked quietly. Belief. I believe you're not what they think you are, I said. And what is that? I didn't hesitate. Unbeatable. That hung in the air between us. Not as arrogance. Not as a challenge. But as something else. Something she hadn't heard in a long time. She stared at me. Really stared. Like she was trying to figure out if I meant it. If I actually believed it. And slowly, something shifted. Her shoulders straightened. Not forced. Natural. Her posture realigned. Not into the rigid structure of an empress performing strength, but into something deeper. Something earned. I will not lose, she said. This time, there was no perhaps. I nodded once. Good. Silence followed. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one felt different. Resolved. Then, you should not be here, she said suddenly. I blinked. Where else would I be? In a secured medical sector, she replied. Away from what is coming. I shook my head slightly. Not happening. You will not be able to move properly for at least. I don't care. Her expression hardened slightly. This is not your decision. Yeah, I said. It is. That got her attention. I met her gaze directly. You said it yourself. You claimed me. A flicker. Barely there. But I saw it. Well, I continued. That goes both ways. Silence. Dangerous silence. And what exactly do you think that means? She asked. I held her eyes. It means I don't sit this out while you fight alone. Her jaw tightened just slightly. You do not understand what you are offering. Yeah, I said quietly. I do. A long pause. Then, you could die. I shrugged faintly, ignoring the pain. I almost did already. That is not the same. No, I agreed. It's not. I leaned forward slightly. This time, it would mean something. That landed. Hard. I saw it in her eyes. That shift again. That crack. Wider now. More real. You are reckless, she said. Probably. You are injured. Definitely. You are. I'm staying, I said. That cut through whatever she was about to say. We held each other's gaze. No movement. No sound. Just decision. And then, something changed. Not in the room. In her. Subtle. But undeniable. You are impossible, she said quietly. I let out a breath that might have been a laugh. I've been called worse. A pause. Then, a faint shift in her expression. Not quite a smile, but closer than anything I'd seen before. You may observe, she said. That was as close to agreement as I was going to get. I'll take it. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't tense. It wasn't uncertain. It felt like something had locked into place. something neither of us could take back. She turned slightly, preparing to leave, then stopped. Noah. I looked up. Her voice had changed again. Quieter. More personal. Whatever happens tomorrow. A pause. Longer than any before. I did not claim you for strategy. I frowned slightly. Then why? She didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, her hand lifted. Just slightly. And for a second, her sleeve shifted. Enough for me to see it again. That mark. My name. Clear. Permanent. Burned into her skin like a decision she couldn't undo. Her gaze met mine one last time. And then, she left, leaving me alone with one thought that wouldn't let go. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was something else. Something deeper. And whatever happened in that hall tomorrow, it was going to change everything. Dawn broke cold over the Hall of Judgment. I shouldn't have been there, but I was. Havoc stood ready, blade humming, confidence written all over him. Veilora faced him in silence. No armor, no crown, just certainty. The fight was fast, brutal. He pushed her hard, too hard. For a moment, I thought. Then I saw it. A flaw. The same slight drop in his shoulder every time he struck. Now, I whispered. She moved. One step. One strike. The blade went through him like it had always belonged there. Silence. Then chaos. But I only watched her. She didn't celebrate. Didn't smile. Just breathed. Later, in the garden, she stood in front of me again. Different now. Lighter. They tried to erase you, she said quietly. I remember. She stepped closer. So I made sure they couldn't. Her sleeve slid back. And there it was. My name. Not ink. Not a symbol. Carved into her skin. Permanent. Undeniable. I did this before the tribunal, she said. Before I claimed you. I stared at it, unable to look away. Why? I asked. Her hands found mine. Because you saw me, she said. Not the throne. Not the power. Just me. My chest tightened. They wanted to erase my identity. Her eyes met mine. But you made it impossible. No, she said softly. I made it eternal. I pulled her closer. You didn't have to do that. I know. A pause. Then, I wanted to. For the first time since I met her. She smiled. Not as an empress. Not as a ruler. But as someone who had finally chosen something for herself. And somehow, that choice was me. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.